Hello, guys. Welcome to our next series of Chess Classics, Part 2. Okay, let me log in with the chat as well so that we can discuss about the game and everything at the right time. Okay, so I'm here now. Okay, so hi, the definitely the young players are joining in. Soham, Rishabh have joined in. Great. Today we'll be going through the classical games, mixed with a few games with Tartakova, Rubinstein, Petrosian. I'm not sure if we can see all the games, but I'll be trying to cover up all the games. And as the last thing, I had request of Carlsen. So I've taken one game of Carlsen as well. So let's start with the game of Tartakova. The game was played in 1933 in Paris. The basic idea of the game would be when the king is in the center, what happens if your opponent keeps the king in the center? How to exploit the opponent's king in the center? Okay. So Tatakova was white, c4. This move normally will take you to the English opening, but it may get transposed to the lines with one d4, then nf3, maybe Catalan. So, but one c4 would be known as English opening. So c4, knight f6, knight c3, e6. If I play d4, in case if white goes with the move order of d4, d5 would go in a QGD, Queen's Gambit, maybe accepted or declined. And for d4, if black plays bishop b4, the game would go in Nimzo Indian defense. Okay. Even though the game went on with different move order, it didn't go with d4. Tatakova went with the option of e4. Of course, this all is nowadays comes in advanced theory. You can, most of you must be having any of the chess software, so you can go through the opening lines d5, c to d5, queen to d5, e5. Okay, Soham and Rishabh, what do you think? What black should play now? What do you think? What may be the best option for black to go in this line? I just Soham and Rishabh, can you confirm if there is a lag in the my video voice? Okay, Soham says 94. No, Soham 94 may not be a good move at this point because after 94, the pawn d4 would give a strong center for white as well. There's an interesting option of for knight e4, knight into e4. If you play knight e4, then white can play knight into e4, d into e4, queen a4 check, and I get the e4 pawn. So knight e4 is not a good move. So here the natural and a decent option for black is d4. That's what, of course, his opponent played. He played d4. Now e into f6, d into c3, f into g7, c into d2 check. Check. Uh, Remember, this is not possible because if you think you capture the rook and you will also get the rook, but if you play c into b2, there will be pawn into h8 queen. If pawn into a1, queen into a1. So that doesn't work. So c into d2 check. Check. Bishop into d2, bishop into g7, queen c2. Okay, so far so good. I mean, this is okay for black still at this point. But few moves after this point, like up, say maybe ninth to 12th move, black played really doubtful moves. Let's see how Tata Cover exploited this. So queen c2, knight c6, knight f3. White is calmly maintaining the main idea of developing the pieces. Bishop g4 should have been avoided. Still, black should have thought of queen e7 check, bd7 and long castles. Long castles. Except the bishop on f1, all white's pieces are ready for the attack. So long castles, bishop into f3, g into f3. Still, I personally think queen f6 should have been played. So that ready for the long castles. Just get the king at a safer place. But he played nd4. This is again a big mistake. Okay. So we have a Vedant also joined in. Okay. Hi Vedant. Now can you suggest a move for white? Any one of you? Anyone? Okay. Rishabh says rookie one. Rookie one? No, not really. Because still we are not sure whether we should get the h1 rook to e1 or d1 rook to e1. So here, white played queen e4 check. Check. Queen e7 is practically forced. Queen into e7 check. Check. Into e7. Now comes bishop b. Check. King e8. Now a very important move, which of course changed the course of the game. After this move, black is hopeless in the position. He is just losing. Rishabh still says rook e1 now also. I'm asking what may be the best position right now. What is the best move for white? White plays a brilliant move. Bishop b5 check. Check. Don't worry, it's not free. White is not sacrificing it. If black captures knight into b5 without saying rook a e1 would lead to a mate. So bishop b5 check, can't capture knight into b5. c6 is the only move. Now rook h e1 check. Now check. You must have realized why rook d e1 was not played before. The simple reason is he should get the rook which is on h1 to e1. So both the files are under white's control. So rook h e1 check, knight e6, practically forced move. Bishop c4, putting the pressure on the e6. Rook d8, bishop into e6, rook into d1. Check. Not rook into d1, but king into d1 is the correct move. Because He needs rook on e1 to capture on e6. Rook into
check,
e6, king d8. Okay, where your rook should be? On the open file? Yes, it is on the open file. Then behind the pass pawn, right now we don't have a pass pawn, a strong pass pawn, but the seventh rank. So let's take the rook on the seventh rank. Rook e7. Bishop into b2. Rook into b7. Idea is check and capture the bishop. Simple idea and to get the piece. Bishop d4. Supporting this and coming out of the discovered attack. Bishop c5. Fantastic move. If you capture this, I have rook b8 check, king c7, rook into h8, and white remains exchanger. King c8, rook into a7. Still, if bishop into c5, rook a8 check and get the exchange. So, king b8, bishop into d4, rook d8. Black is going to regain the piece for sure. Black will be getting the piece back because the d4 bishop is pinned. Rook a4, h4, rook a4 c5. So rook a4 would lead to c5. So anyway, what white decided to do is, anyway he can't save the d4 bishop. So it went on with h7 pawn. Rook into d4,
check,
king e2, rook a4. Now the main idea is pass pawn must be for h4. White starts advancing the h pawn. Rook into a2 check,
check,
king e3, king c8, h5. King d8, h6. It goes on, the pawn will go on till h8. Rook c7, king f8, h7, rook a3 check,
check,
king f4. Here he resigns. Here black resigns. Guys, am I missing some chat or something? It's not updating at my side. Okay. Anyway, let's go on particular that time. Now I'll be getting some nice position. The game was played between Taimanov and in Moscow in 1949. So it's not a full game. I'll be explaining you a simple position. These kind of positions, when we look at the position, we understand, yes, this is better for white. But at the time of execution, many times we make some mistakes and the game may end in a draw, or if a blunder, then we lose. Particularly, many times the game end in a draw because of the small mistake. Knight is on g6. Okay, the position is with white to play. I guess yes, this is the same position. Let me cross check in a moment. Yeah, this is the same portion. Okay, when we look at the portion, black is one pawn down, but he is having a strong a file. The rook may come on a2. If white exchanges both the rooks, then it will be difficult because the simple reason is the pawn will come on, black pawn will come on e4, and black king is having a dangerous entry. Just on the third move, 1 e6 to d5, 3 c4, and the b4 c5 pawn will be lost. Whereas white king will require 1, 2, and 3 to control it. So it's a bit tricky, and after e4 he can't get the king on d3 as well. So let's see how white continued. The fantastic move what Taimanov played here is normally we definitely think of rook f to d1, doubling the rooks. But rook f to d1 is little dangerous because rook into d6, like in case you go with this, then this move would be really irritating because now you can't move the bishop. If you play bishop c3, I'll play rook c2, and it will be really tough job for you because of the back rank. So to overcome this problem, the simple move what he played is rook d d1, rook into d1, rook into d1, rook a2. Now rook d2 is forced, but good. e4. It's good move from black. Black is trying to get the knight to e5 and then to d3 and then get the king to e6, d5, c4. So this is bit tricky. Even though it's winning, it's advantageous to white, but white has to be little bit careful. Okay, so white immediately decides to challenge the e4 pawn with f3. E into f3. If j into f3 as discussed n e5, threatening nf3 and nc4. So cannot play this. So the correct move is for f3, e into f3. Oh, I guess that's a lag or something. Oh, wait. Let me see something. I'm not able to get the. Okay. Now this should be okay. Yeah, now it's updated. I had to refresh it. Sorry. So e into f3, rook f2. The point is he has supported the rook with the king on g1 is one thing. Another is now he cannot play in e5. And the pawn is pinned, so he's not losing the pawn. So white played rook f2. Knight h4, g3, e4, maintaining the idea of chasing the knight. So e4, knight e3, look into f3,
Check.
e6. Bishop into g7 is very risky because of rook g2 check and rook e2. The game may end in a draw. Like if bishop into g7, rook g2.
Check.
Threatening mate on the move. It will be little risky. I mean, better not to go in this for white. So, since we have a simpler continuation, why to go in this? So, rook into 3 checking e6, bishop d4, and f5. e4 and e3, rook f3 checking. When he played g4, now bishop into knight h2.
Check.
If king e5, discovered check and lose, black will lose a piece. So cannot play king to e5. King e7. Then rook f2, forcing the exchange. Rook into f2 is forced. King into f2, h5. Now what black is trying is keeping the king on e6, and after that it's really difficult for white to get the entry. So, but let's see how white takes the advantage. Taimanov took the advantage of the position. How he made an easy and comfortable win. h5, king e3, king e6, king f4, g4, bd4, knight h2. The point is the moment you go here, I'll get the knight here and try to capture this. As well, he has to be a little careful with this threat as well. So knight f3 and knight f1 are two important moves which white must be careful. And h2, bishop f2, king f6, stopping the entry. bg1, knight f1, bd4,
Check.
king f7. Now bf2, king g6, now e5, knight h2, okay, knight h2, then it's a matter of technique now, bishop d4, king f7, king f5, king e7, bishop e3, and g4, bishop f4. I guess this one looks quite easy, but let me complete the move till end. Knight f2, e6, knight d3, d6,
Check.
king e8, king g6. Now another pawn starts marching to g8. Immediate move is seen to be 6 because otherwise the b5 pawn would be risky. So seen to b6 and passant, knight into b6, g5, and d5, g6, c7. I guess that's more than enough to resign. Anyway, he played knight f6
Check.
in zigzag. And maybe in next couple of moves, white will make the another queen. So here, of course, the game was over. Now let's see a game played between Petrosian and Botvinnik. Okay, Petrosian was white and Botvinnik was black. This was a Moscow World Championship, played in Moscow World Championship tournament. Okay, so Botvinnik started with c4 again. c4, G6, D4, knight F6, knight C3, D5. Can anyone tell me the name of the opening here? It's a Grunfeld defense. I guess most of you must be aware of the move. That's a Grunfeld defense. Okay, so D5, knight F3, bishop G7, E3, castle, bishop E2, D into C4, bishop into C4, D5. What when he played E6? A quite interesting option. Not sure whether it's. I personally don't like E6 here. Looking at the way the pawn structure will end up, it's really very awkward. Like White himself is going with a bad pawn structure with a weak pawn on E6. Petrosian took D into E6, queen into D1, check, king into D1, bishop into E6, F into E6. Now, can anyone tell me interesting options or interesting plan for either of them? Is there a lag, guys? Yeah, there is, I guess. Okay, so F into E6, King E2. King is much safer on E2 instead of the King C2 because King C2 would attract and C6 and B4 few checks and the jump on D3. But King E2 is safer because this strong pawn structure. And C6, Rook D1. Rook A D8, not at all a good move right now. First, he played Rook A D8, but the correct move was to play King F7 and get the king to E7. That would have been a little better for black. So, but he played Rook A D8, Rook into D8, Rook into D8. Why King F7 is necessary? Once we see White's NG5 move, we will realize King F7 was necessary. Now the pawn is under attack and he cannot get the king to F7. As well, the knight will get a strong outpost on the E4, like G5 or knight on C3. Will get a strong outpost on E4. So NG5. Rook E8. I think practically forced because this will attract knight E6. If E5 and after capture, well again anyway get the knight on E4. So anyway he'll be losing the pawn. So cannot go with this. So he, instead of E5 practically Rook E8 was forced. The game went on with rook e8, knight g e4, knight into e4, knight into e4, b6. Now this position is definitely better for white because black is having three pawn islands versus two with white. So the pawn islands are more with black. White's knight is having a strong outpost controlling all the main central squares. Only worry is he should get the bishop and rook in the game quickly. A little compensation would be with black because of the long diagonal what his bishop is enjoying. So, but only just with one piece you cannot really hope much. So, knight into e4, b6, rook b1. Immediately white played rook b1 with the idea to get the bishop in the game. Knight b4. Okay, let me. Okay, knight b4, bishop d2. As planned, got the bishop back in the game. Black played knight d5, but knight into a2 would be again a bad move. Let me explain you why knight into a2 is not working. Knight into a2, rook a1. There will be a series of forced moves. And b4, bishop into b4, rook into a7. If takes, I'll capture this with the knight on e4 and king d3, king c4. Black is hopeless in the position. So he can't go for this. Okay, so let's come back to game as he did not go for knight into a2. But for bishop d2, he played and d5. And d5. a4. a4 is a good move. The main reason behind a4 maybe two ideas. One is putting the pawn on b3 and f4. Then black's bishop on g7 won't be able to attack those pawns. So that won't remain a weakness for the coming moves. Then now black has to regroup, replan his knight to attack the two pawns. And a4 will restrict black's activity on the queen side. The pawn on a4 will stop him from creating a passed pawn so easily. So a4, rook c8, b3. White is going perfectly as per the plan. Don't forget c4 would be answered with nd6 and nc4, just losing a pawn. So cannot go with this. So he played first bishop a8. The idea is to stop the nd6. Rook c1, stopping c4. Bishop e7. Now it's time for white to take the action with creating. Right now there's one weakness in black's game, that's pawn on e6. So now it's time for him to create one more weakness. He can't take pawn into b4 because c8 is hanging. If he allows me to take pawn into c5, pawn into c5, the one more weakness that c5, e6 will be difficult to defend more number of weaknesses. So for b4, practically c4 is forced for him. That's what he played. Of course, not willingly, but compulsory. Now, can you suggest or can you think of some interesting move for black which stops all the activities on the queen side for black? With this move, white practically stops everything, all the counterplay from black. The move is b5, closing everything over there. Cannot now advance. Now the c4 pawn becomes a weak. So b5, played king f7, bishop c3. Now regrouping. Now white starts to getting the pieces at the right place. As this position has changed little, bishop a3, knight into c3,
Check.
rook into c3, bishop d4, rook c3. King e7. King e7 practically doesn't give any chance for black. Because anyway he can't get the king near the pawn, closer the pawn. So the best way would have been play e5 and try for king e6, king d5. But king e7 achieves nothing. In fact, at some point it's restricting the bishop movement. If in case bishop needs to regroup on f6, it's not possible for him now. So king e7 is not at all a good move. It's just a maybe a best move. And d2, attacking the c4 pawn. Of course, bishop into d2, king into d2 would end up in a bad ending for black because king will come to c3. Let's see, let me show you on the board. Timely rook d2. The rook will penetrate on the 7th rank and things will be easier. White would be in a comfortable position. So he, of course, he can't play that. He didn't play that. What he played was for nd to c3. Again, it was a forced move for him. So c3, knight e4, bishop a5, king d3,
Check.
king c4, rook d1. Because there's nothing strong idea with rook d1, but just creating some counterplay. Hi Saket, never mind, never mind. In fact, I know as today all the chess players, chess lovers must be busy watching India and China match, which India did a great win, beating China. So I understand that. So mostly, many of them, our regular attendees would prefer to go and check the recorded one later on the YouTube. But it's nice to see you, Sakit. Welcome. So rook d1, knight into c3. Instead of keeping the knights on the board, knight and bishop, black may may have tried bishop into c3, eliminating the bishop with the knight and going with a pure rook endings. Because rook endings, there would have been a decent chance if white makes a mistake. Of course, there is an if. So, but he played rook h1 in e4. Into h2. This is really dangerous threat. 7. Bishop b4, king e5.
Check. Check.
Remember, the king is a strong piece in the endgame. For the same king, movement, we have a rule in the opening and the middle game that you keep the king under shelter because it becomes vulnerable. So be careful and don't expose your king. But when the game enters in a endgame part, the king actually acts as a strong piece. Maybe I'll try to show you a beautiful game played by, I guess, Tal. The caption of the game itself is King is a strong piece. Practically, the Grandmaster has used King as one of the strong piece once the middle game stage started. So King G7, E5, trying to get the king closer. Rook C6, Rook H1, King F7, K1, E6, Rook D8, oops, sorry, BD8,
check,
Rook D1,
check, check,
Here, of course, black decided to surrender and the game was won by white. Okay. So now the one more game I'll be showing you played between Carlson and Azmay Parashvali. Azmay Parashvali, you must have read many books of Zurab Azmay Parashvali, Grandmaster. And of course, Magnus Carlsen, everyone knows. The game was played in FIDE World Cup at Khanty, Russia. So let's go with the game now. D4, D5, C6. A normal Queen's Gambit declined variation. Bishop G5, C6, E3, Bishop F5. Nowadays, Bishop F5 is not played on regular basis. It's not considered to be perfect or the correct move in this setup. Can anyone would like to suggest something? Saket, Kamal. Oh, Kamal, new joinee. Welcome, Kamal. Can any one of you tell me the best move for white? Hello, hello, Kamal. Anyone? Saket says Queen F3. That's the move. Correct. Excellent move, Saket. Queen F3. Attacking the bishop. So it is very simple. Attacking the F5 bishop. Bishop G6. Now, can anyone suggest me the move? Yes, good, Kamal. You also says the same move. Now, anyone? Saket says Bishop F6. Yep, fantastic. Good one. Correct move is Bishop into F6. Vedant, everyone goes with the Bishop F6. F6, the natural Queen into F6, Queen into F6. Many of you might have faced these kind of positions very frequently in your game. But if we don't execute it properly, the game may end in a draw. In fact, you or even maybe a strong players, the game sometimes ends in a draw because the execution part is very important. Let's see how Carlsen from white executed the correct move order and how he converted this advantage in a win. So bishop f6, g f6, knight f3. Kamal, h4, I'm not saying would be a really a bad move, but if you want to take the advantage of opponent's weaknesses, you must get your pieces as quickly as possible. Because more the pieces in the game would definitely help you. So, knight f3, nd7. Now suggest a move. Carlsen is going practically trying to get the control of the weak squares in black's position by virtue of g into f6, which those squares have been created. Can any one of you tell me the move? What may be the best plan or the move? Saket says g3. Yeah, g3 is not a bad move, but it's too slow. Anything? Knight h4, perfect. Kamal says the correct move knight h4. The weakness is f5. Just imagine if we get the outpost for our knight on f5. It will be a huge advantage which white can enjoy. And h4, bishop b4.
check,
Okay. Oh, I'm a little faster. I hope not. So bishop b4, rook c1. Now, still, we need to get one more piece on the f5 so that our knight remains on f5. Let's see how Carlsen managed to get the control of those squares. So rook into c3, rook c8. Oh, not rook c8 doesn't give us him anything. He played knight c8. Azumeh actually played knight c8, trying to get the knight on d6. Quite an interesting option. C8. Keeping the pressure on the f5 square, Carlsen, for the time being, changes the strategy. Bishop d3. Okay, bishop d3. Maybe I can take bishop into d3, Kamal. Let's see what he's suggesting. Bishop d3. So bishop d3 won't give us the advantage. Is it clear, Kamal? Okay, bishop e2, yes, bishop e2 is a normal decent move. It can be played, but this doesn't clear white's plan, what he'll be trying to do. Let's see what Carlsen decided to go with this. First f3. At some point g4, trying for e4. Not immediately, but the plan is f3, if required king f2 and d6. Still, now we cannot play e4 because black is having too many control on the e4, and for white it's really difficult to get more and more control. Again, if we play bishop d3, it will be same. Now, I guess Carlsen, the move every time suggested by Saki, that's g3. Carlsen played g3 now. a5. What may be the ideas in a5? Since black is having a majority on the queen side, like on the A, B, C, D, these four files, he's trying to create the counter on the queen side. B3, B4, B4. For the time being, there's practically nothing to worry on the queen side for Carlsen. Uh, Saket, if you play a4 particular that point, black will be having an interesting idea of king d7 and b5. That will help him to create the passed pawn quite faster way. So till the time white gets the control of the f5 and get the penetration in the center and the king side, it's better to keep the queen side closed. So till this point, Carlsen has managed to do that. Yes, Kamal, I agree. Right now, White's knight doesn't have a good squares, but let's see. Same knight will give you a bind on the f5, the outpost on the f5, and maybe the point. In future, in fact, maybe the knight will turn to d4 as well because after e4, the d4 pawn in case gets exchanged. Then even the d4 square. Let's see how it went on, how the game went on. b4, bb1, bishop e2, rook c1, bishop c4. Here, the plan which we had discussed, taking the control of the key squares, starts now. Bishop h3. White's pieces are now in action. Bishop h3 and b5. Yes, Saket, right. Rightly said. How should we continue now? How are we losing the a3 pawn? Are we forced to play rook a1? Saket says rook a1. Yes, there's nothing wrong in defending the pawn for the time being. So rook a1. Whenever we want, we'll get the rook back to c1. That's fine. Rook a1. Castles. The difference with the strong players, how they change the strategies and the plans at the right time. Can anyone suggest the better option or the plan for white now? How white should continue? Rook a1 done. Okay, Kamal says knight f5. Okay, knight f5 is definitely not a bad move. It's a good move. But Carlsen finds something more interesting and stronger plan. Bishop f5, Soham says. Sakit says bishop f5. Yes, knight f5, bishop f5, both the moves are good. I'm not saying the moves are bad, but need something stronger. Now, instead of getting the knight on f5, white, Carlsen decides to get the knight on f4 and g2. Since bishop is on h3, it will be really, as controlling the c8, it's really difficult for black to play b6 and c5 because he cannot play rook c8. Yes, Kamal, knight g2. Carlsen played knight g2. From here, the game is really interesting now. Rook f d8, knight f4, king f8. Now, white, Carlsen is playing on two weaknesses. Bishop f5, putting the pressure on the h7, h6, and h5. putting the pressure on the f6. Yes, Saket, bishop f5, the right move. King e7. Now how to go ahead? White's bishop is on the right, uh, strong diagonal. Knight is putting the pressure on the f6, having a good center control. Only except the a3 weakness, White is doing good. What to do now? Strengthening the our stronger points, g4, and plan for this so that this pawn would be under fire. Black must do something. If we just keep on doing moves without any plan, slowly Carlsen will continue his plan and the advantage, slight advantage would turn in a bigger advantage. So g4, b6. Black is doing some activity with c5. Look at g1. Okay, 7. Now, here first Carlsen threatened to get the knight to f5. Then all of a sudden he shifted the knight to f4. I guess now it's again time to reverse it. Kamal, yes, rook e1 earlier is better, but with g4, if you can find the move for white now, you will understand why g4 is played. Maybe after two moves I can answer you because here Carlsen again takes back the knight because after knight f5, h6 is a big weakness now because he has committed h6. So this is very important. This phase of the game is really, really important. A player must understand at which weakness he should attack and how to attack it. First, Carlsen opted with nh4, threatening knight f5, a bind on the f5. When he was able to get the bishop on f5, he moved the knight to another square f4 and h5, putting the pressure on f6. Because of this, black was forced to play h6. Now again, the stronger square is f5. So it's again regrouping and getting the bishop knight to f5. So main idea behind g4 is ng3 as well. King f8, bishop c2. If black doesn't open up the position, white will play knight here, capture the pawn, again get the knight back and start advancing the pawn. So now it's time for black to do some activity. c5, b into c5, b into c5, b into c5, rook c8. See now a nice analysis by Chenev. The knight lands on f5 with much greater effect than would have been the case earlier. The h6 pawn is already doomed. But as it turns out, white already has bigger fish to fry. Look into c5. If you any point when you play nd6, now I have e4 as well. I'll first play h4, h5, then play e4. Keep on pressurizing black center and the king side. So rook, Saket says rook e b1. Yeah, maybe at some point. But anyway, Saket, you won't be getting anything on rook e b1 because we don't get the open file that easily. Knight f5, rook into c5. Because for ND6, whenever you play rook e b1, we really don't get anything. I'm sorry, Saket, are you telling the rook e b1 at this point or at the earlier point? Yeah, okay. I got it. Yeah, Saket, rook e b1 is the correct move. In fact, I thought when Kamal was telling ND6, you said rook e b1. I'm so sorry. Yeah, what you said is right. Rook e b1 is a good move. C8, rook b4. Since anyway, there's nothing right now in black's plan strategy, he decides to create the complications by sacrificing the pawn. D4, bishop e6, knight c3, bishop c2. White has captured two extra pawns and definitely now he's winning. Here, many times what happens, shedding material enables the defender to obtain some temporary activity which black is trying to get. He's trying to create some counterplay. So, but normally these kind of counterplay doesn't work in endgame because endgame many times is mainly on a calculation part. Bishop c2, h5, h3, knight a2, rook b2, rook into a3. Black has regained one of the lost pawn. Now, how to again build up the pressure on the opponent's weaknesses. White is having a quite interesting plan, interesting move. And this move again will confirm how why shifting of strategies and plans are important in the game. Saket and Kamal both said correct move rook h1 at the right time, setting a mate on the move. So that's a bit risky for black now because suddenly it's a mate in one position. Bishop into f5, practically forced. Bishop into f5, rook c8. Not the thing is he's not getting anything by doubling the a file. We must remember that he's supporting the a8 rook. That's all. Because otherwise, with rook h8 check, he will lose the rook. Rook b7. Again, threatening the mate on the move. Not mate, but rook h7 and rook f7 would be very risky. And c3, rook h8 check.
check,
King g7, rook
check,
f7 check. King g8. I think now it's just a matter of flawless technique. Rook into f7. Rook a2 check.
check,
I'll just show you the couple of last moves, how the game went on. King e3, rook e8 check,
check,
king d3, and d1,
check,
rook g7 check, king h8, rook h8, rook
check,
f7 check, king g8, d5.
check,
Azmay Parashvili decided to surrender at this point. If black continues giving the checks, white king will go via to d6 if required on d7 as well and threatening this mate. If you just take back the rook, now I have bishop e6 check.
check,
So a forced mate or losing an exchange by force. So that will be not possible at that level that anyone can keep on playing hoping the opponent will make a blunder. All we're playing at the World Cup matches. So this is how the Carlsen at his young age did a positional masterpiece. When we can see these players playing a fantastic positional game, sometimes attacking game, sometimes a total theoretical novelties. So look at the amount of work they do and their mind every time as the need comes, they change their plans. So that's the difference between the champion and a normal player. Okay. So I think it's really we are little more than the scheduled time, but I'm fine. I mean, till the time you all of you enjoy, it's really good to do that. Thank you, Kamal, that you enjoyed the game, and I'll definitely try to get the game as King is a strong piece. I'll get back to you maybe in my couple of next classes. So even that game you'll enjoy. I am 100% sure you will enjoy the game and how King works as a stronger piece and how it actually gives you the win. We can come to know from that game. Yeah, fine. So I think it's time to say bye and take care. So let's meet. I guess I have a one more class tomorrow again. And till then, bye. Take care.